John and Ken Show. John Cobell and Ken Shampoo on KFI AM 640, more stimulating talk radio.
Coming up after 6 o'clock, it was almost a week ago that a call was placed from a facility called Glenwood Gardens in Bakersfield. And apparently it was a 911 call, so the dispatcher tried to get somebody to perform CPR on an 87-year-old woman. And apparently a woman now identified as a resident services director would not do it. The woman died. We'll talk about this. It's making news. We have some of the clips of the 911 call to play, and we'll try to find out what's at the bottom of this coming up after 6 o'clock.
You know,
high-speed rail.
You know, they claim they're going to spend only $68 billion on the high-speed rail. We know it's going to be well over $100 billion of your tax money. And now the idiots who are running high-speed rail pledged to reserve a portion of those jobs for disadvantaged people. And it's not just maybe skilled workers who are unemployed, right?
No, they got a whole list here. Veterans, former foster children and single parents, and high school dropouts, the homeless, and people have been convicted of crimes. How about that?
Why?
So they've carved out jobs for those people.
Don't you want the best railroad people to build the most expensive rail project in the history of this country?
It sounds like a quota plan here.
I don't know how being a former foster child qualifies you for that. No criticism here of foster children, but it just seems to me that you have to prove that you have experience building a railroad more than anything else. No matter who your parents were, and the homeless. Now, if a guy can't figure out how to at least afford, a studio apartment, maybe he's got a problem and he's not capable of a high-end job. I mean, you have to admit, if you're actually going to build the railroad and it's going to be, go 200 miles an hour, right? This is going to take some expertise here. This is going to take people with a lot of knowledge and education and understanding of all the complexities of high-speed rail. So they want homeless people. They want people who've been convicted of a crime. Why would you want that? There's millions of people who have not been convicted of a crime who are out of work. Why wouldn't they be up in front of? I don't understand this.
Apparently, this is used in other agencies. L.A. County Metropolitan Transportation Authority used it last year, as well as the California High Speed Rail Authority. It calls for at least 30% of project labor to be done by first people who live in low-income areas, with at least 10% of that work going to disadvantaged workers. And we gave you an idea as to who some of those people are. So it's a quota system.
It's a quota system for people who are not qualified to build a railroad.
So if you're submitting a bid, you have to show like a list of homeless people that you might have employed.
That's what I'm saying. How do you?
Well, you have to meet the qualifications with at least 10% disadvantaged.
Why? This is the nuttiest thing I ever heard of. What was the story we had earlier in the show? That in Oakland, the mayor put out a newsletter advertising a lock-picking class in a city where they have a burglary every 42 minutes of the day. Now you have the state saying, hey, if you want to build the greatest technological marvel in rail history, we want your homeless. We want felons. We're not looking to hire all the smartest people or the most skilled people to build the most complex rail. I mean, they've got to burrow this railroad through mountains. They got to build tunnels and things.
This is the 30-mile stretch from Madera to Fresno, costing at least $1.8 billion. That's what we're talking about here. This is the first stretch of the browndoggle, known as high-speed rail. And they also put out, news of the obvious last week. They still don't know where future funding is going to come from. Remember, this is only a few $1 billion from your state bond and your stupid Sacramento government, and a couple of $1 billion from the federal government.
So they're going to
the rest is hypothetical.
No, it's a jobs program for the unions and those connected in the state.
You think they'll build this 30-mile stretch and it'll turn to dust and tumbleweeds?
It'll be done. It'll be 30 miles, and then that's it, because they're never going to get the money to build the whole system. But for now, they get to reward the unions who've supported all these nitwits in Sacramento, and they get to reward the politically connected who've bribed their way into influence. I can't believe they want homeless workers and felons. I mean, that's nutty. That's crazy. Do you know the kind of education you need to conceive this railroad? Do you know what the kind of experience you need to lay this down properly? There hasn't been one like this in the nation. I'm shocked at this. How stupid are these legislators? And again, they get reelected constantly. Nobody ever loses an election, no matter how stupid they are.
By the way, their phones are ringing off the hook. The Fresno Regional Workforce Investment Board is fielding so many calls from people looking for jobs on the project that they're preparing a rail-specific website to screen applicants once construction starts.
Well, because
there's a 14% unemployment, that's an official employment rate in Fresno County.
If you're going to screen out applicants who are unqualified, then what's with this requirement that the homeless and the convicts get a job? You can't have it both ways. The homeless and the convicts are not qualified to build the railroad. So you can't screen people out and then require them to be in.
Well, I don't know. There are some that are concerned that this will hurt the non-union firms being able to make bids, because apparently the whole agreement is very restrictive. Nicole Gehring, Government Affairs Director of the Associated Builders and Contractors Northern California chapter, said so many non-union contractors can't bid because this agreement is too restrictive.
Because
for your qualified skilled workers who might be able to bid it but don't happen to be in the union, they now have to, their employers have to sign on to these union workforce rules in order to be able to have an opportunity to work on the job.
Why would single parents get... Why do single parents get preference over a married couple? Being married is now a black mark against you to get hired
for
the high-speed rail? Why is being raised by your birth parents a disadvantage to those who are raised as foster children? How did that happen? Why is there a criteria? What does it matter if you're raised by your birth parents or you're raised by foster parents? What does it matter whether you're single parents or you're married parents?
Well, they finally filled their last big management position, and good luck to this guy. The High Speed Rail Authority has finally hired a CFO. Russell Fong is his name. And this is going to be the guy that'll have to keep track of the money and whether or not they have enough to pay for this down the road, which is why I wished him good luck.
If he's honest, or if he's going to be one of these.
He comes from CalPERS.
Oh, well.
They just shuffle them around,
yeah,
don't
I know.
they?
It's the same guys.
And that's why I mentioned that union thing, because the unions have such a stranglehold on Sacramento. They want to make sure they get all these jobs with this dopey browndoggle. They probably rigged the system that way. All right, coming up after 6 o'clock, we will talk about what happened in Bakersfield at that resident facility where the 87-year-old woman collapsed. Somebody calls 911 and looks like...